I want to dedicate and thank Rabbi Eckstein for the idea for this sermon. So Rabbi Eckstein, of course, has been giving sermons for, oh my gosh, more than 60 years. And this is actually a sermon which asks us to think about the messed up moments in our lives and the missed moments in our lives. So sometimes we mess up a moment and sometimes we miss a moment. And this is an opportunity for us to think about how more often than not we do have second chances to get right what we got wrong and to do that which we might not have done. So as I mentioned earlier, in this morning's Torah portion, we read about something known as Pesach Sheni. Now we know that Passover occurs in the spring, and in ancient times they would bring a special offering, and then later the Seder evolved. So what happened to those people who were unable to observe Passover the first time around? So there were actually two categories. One were the Tamei Nefesh, the people who were disqualified because they were not in the right spot. And the others called those who are Rechokim, who were far away. So those who did the wrong thing and those who weren't in the right place, these are two different qualities, two different circumstances. So I want to talk about both and how it impacts our own lives. So sometimes we have situations that we mess up. Sometimes we do and say things that are tameim, that disqualify us in the moment. So as many of you know, I am the father of 3 now young men, so they are adults by any descriptor possible. And with each and every one of them, all three for three, I had moments where I, as a parent, messed up. I'll share one of them. I don't want to share more than that right now, but trust me. So one of my sons took chemistry in high school, and chemistry was not his thing. He was very good in other subjects. He actually could write poems on the spot that were fantastic. Ask him to write a haiku, ask him to write a short story. When he was 4 years old, he would play with his characters on the floor and he would come up with all kinds of inventive stories about them. But chemistry was something that he just wasn't drawn to. And so the phone rang, and it was his chemistry teacher who said to me, "Your son has missed a lot of assignments." So I listened, and it was a lot of assignments. And I said, okay, I'll talk to him about it and all of that. And I got very upset when I hung up the phone. And I made some sort of a comment about, maybe instead of going to college, we could find him a job flipping burgers. I wasn't proud of that moment. And what I realized is that he was actually in the kitchen right next door, and he heard what it was that I had said. So I walked in and I apologized and I hugged him and I said something really hurtful and stupid and I don't mean it, and I love you, and whatever happens, I love you, but you're such a capable person. And I talked on and on and on. So that was a messed up moment. And I imagine that anyone who is a parent, anyone who is a spouse, anyone who is a child, anyone who is a sibling has had moments that you wish you could hit delete and start again. Now, years later, I revisited this with him. I said, do you remember when I said that hurtful thing and I was in the dining room and you were in the kitchen and you heard it? And he said, I actually forgot completely about what had happened, which is fortuitous. But the point is that we were able somehow to move forward, and I tried very hard in successive moments not to mess up. Now, true of my other children and my relationship, true of other aspects of my relating to people, true of my conducting myself professionally. So I would say that this first category is the category of messed up moments. And then there's a second category, derech rechoka. You're just far away from where you need to be. So more than messed up moments, these are missed moments. And I want to just share a story about my dad, who worked as an accountant for many years and worked as the vice president of finance for a company. What he really loved was to study history and literature. He was very intellectually curious in these areas, and he could not do it while we were growing up and while he was earning a living. And so as soon as he retired, he started taking classes at the local university. And he took a class in French literature. And he would come home from that class, and he loved telling me about what he learned, because the professor would talk about how hard it was to translate from one language into another and what was lost. And my father was in heaven, learning and doing what he was unable to do for many years. And so he decided that all of those missed moments didn't mean that he had to miss them forever. And I had tremendous respect for the fact that he, when he got to a more fruitful time in his life for these sorts of things, was able to step forward and do that which he wished he had been able to do. So I'm looking out at a room of people, lots of ages. You can be in middle school and mess up and wish that the thing you said to your friend last week you hadn't said. You can be decades and decades into your life and think back on things that might have happened a long time ago where you messed up. And when it comes to missed opportunities, I just want to invite you to think of your life as a play that has many different acts. And there might be a long stretch when you cannot satisfy your intellectual curiosity, when you cannot volunteer the way that you wish you could, when you cannot give of yourself and also receive in certain ways, but there are many acts. And look forward to a time and plan a time and seize that time that you will not continue to miss that which you have missed. So, thinking of Rabbi Eckstein's teachings of many years, somebody who continued and is still continuing into this decade that he is halfway through, his 90s, to be a real exemplar. Invoking his teaching, I want to pass this on. Pesach Sheni, the second Passover, it's a metaphor for God giving us opportunities to rectify what we messed up and to do that which we have missed. And I hope that we will take advantage of second Passover and third Passover and fourth Passover, on and on and on, for as many years as God gives us. Shabbat Shalom.